Today's guest is a former professional wrestler, former candidate for Illinois governor, and a paranormal investigator. With over 20 years of UFO and cryptid research experience, he was the lead on the 5-year investigation into the infamous Victor alien interview. Please give a huge Koit welcome to Jon Stewart. Hi Jon, and welcome to KoitCast.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
No worries, it's an honour to have you here. You came highly recommended by Reverend Michael Carter, so thank you for coming. In your own words, who are you? Where are you from? What's your generic history?
Yeah, I'm 56 years old. I'm grew up and raised in the city of Chicago, Illinois. I was a football player in high school and in college and semi-pro, and it was my biggest claim to fame, I guess, would be that during my freshman year at the University of Memphis in Tennessee, I started to train and actually became a professional wrestler for Jerry Lawler and Jerry Jarrett's Mid-South Wrestling organization. And that started a wrestling journey for 20 years. And as my age and my body were breaking down, I started to get into the family automobile industry. And on top of having a somewhat successful life in the automobile industry, I just retired 2 years ago at 54. So my wife is very happy for that because on my way to, heart attack city or having a complete mental breakdown because, as I'm sure many people with the market conditions realize, the automobile industry is very challenging and has been for 10 years anyways. But in amongst of being a businessman, I also, took some forays into the political life. I ran for state rep. I ran for Congress, which was covered by the national media because of Jesse Ventura's win for governor. And Bob Backlund from the WWF was running for Congress too. So he and I actually had so much media on us that we had an article on us in the New York Times Magazine done, which is unbelievable because there aren't popes that have been in the New York Times Sunday Magazine. So Bob and I were very proud of that. And, it was 5 years ago at the start of COVID that I got a desperate call from a producer in Hollywood that I had done bird dogging for, which means, thinking of ideas for reality shows, packaging them and sending them off to say, here's what I've got. Here's all the particulars, the who, what, when, and why. And he said, we need some cheap, quick documentary ideas. Do you have any? And we sat there for an hour and this alien interview popped into my brain, which has always been there since 97, ever since I saw it. And that really started the replantation of the alien interview. It bothered me all day. I can remember sitting in my car on the driveway, which, people want me to be very specific as I can with dates and names. And I respect that. And I will, as best of my professional wrestling COVID brain will let me. But it was, well, I'm being serious.
No, me too. I
love podcasts. I tell you, I speak unbelievably, so people don't believe this, but I speak highly of two entities, the government, believe it or not, and podcasters, because podcasters have been great to me with walking me through names. There are podcasters that know way more about ufology and the names and the incidents and the events than I do. And I get spoon fed and I appreciate that. But so it was January 3rd, 2019, when I said, again, for everyone out there, I just wanted to find the truth of this video. That's it. I don't care either way. It's 5 years later, and I still don't care either way. I just want to know as much as possible the absolute truth. And that, I hope, calms down the rhetoric and the keyboard warriors and this vitriol and this anger out there. For people who walk by this video and say, oh, it's fake, it's fake, it's fake, and not saying that's a hell of a good animatronic alien if this is fake. And that's what I did. And I'll shut up now.
No, that's good.
I'm just saying, January 3rd, 2019, I said, I'm going to try and find one thing today before I go in my house about this video that I can prove or disprove. And that's what happened. And
Okay,
that's how it all started. That's why I'm here.
Sure. And here's something that immediately came into my head during that stuff you said there. You said that the alien video popped into your head, right? And that was, oh, I'll work on that. Why do you think that popped into your head? Have you been mulling over that for years?
Well, it's always bothered me since 1997 when I saw this film, and I tell the story, and I'm gonna condense it. I was at the top of my life professionally. I was living like a professional athlete in this gorgeous downtown condo. I had a black Porsche and a powerboat on Lake Michigan, and this beautiful blonde, sexy girl I was dating, who's now my wife of 25 years. And I see this video, and I'm expecting a alien autopsy shockumentary, and I see this very non-professionally produced, very casual video of a gray alien that's tan with round eyes instead of almond. And I can remember being on my couch just doing I sat back and went, what the F am I, French toast, am I watching here? And then when Victor started to speak, and I was very familiar with actors and production in Hollywood and commercials and wrestling production and just entertainment people, I'm like, I'm sorry, that's not an actor. I don't know who he is. I don't know where he came from. I don't know about this alien on the film. And I'm saying this in my brain in 97. That is not an actor. There is no way. Unless they found a disgruntled scientist from Area 51 that, that
Hmm.
wanted to expose things and knew everything was a hoax. I'm still 3% believing that that could possibly be the truth too. So it always, and I'm sorry, I won't banter.
No, this is you
It
carry
was
on.
always in my brain. And then the producer during COVID on January 3rd jarred my memory where I was going over, I was going over that Chicago could possibly have a serial killer amongst us who was lighting bodies on fire. We went over rehabbing independent wrestling organizations that were very unprofessionally run. What were some stories from people being on the graveyard shift at hospitals or construction sites or military places. And the last idea I said, I look, what about this alien interview, this thing from blah blah blah? He came back in '08, and the producer, whose name was Adam Wilkenfeld of Neon TV, a great guy, he's like, this that might be a little bit too intense and complicated for what we want to do. He just wanted to just add water, and
Yeah,
voila, we've
yeah.
got a
Something simple.
documentary. Boy, was he correct on this might be too intense and complicated, because here I am 5 years later, 87% knowing or believing, sorry, believing the truth and the provenance of this video. 3% of the other that Victor was real. I know Victor's real, and I'm not giving the punchline, but maybe the video 3% could have been faked by the military, and 0% that someone from Hollywood did this. 0%. And I'll tell you why. And we'll
Go
start
on.
this off for people, and I'll be quiet. You can ask me any question. Let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen, and I want you to hear me correctly. And again, this is like I am a person looking for the truth. That's it. Not one person in 30 years with specific, real, credible evidence has ever come forward to say the 1997 alien interview 3-minute film with the being was a hoax. Not one person from Hollywood. We can't find the animatronic doll. We can't find the person that did the catering that day. We can't find the studio that was allegedly rented for that day. We can't find the two guys that wore the army and military aid uniforms in the foreground. Can't find the cameraman. We can't find the two medical doctors if they were actors. We can't find the special effects person that created probably a Spielberg-esque alien puppet, animatronic puppet. Not one, I'm going to say this one more time. Not one person with credibility has ever come forward with absolute proof that that video was a hoax. Not one person. So
And that's
remember that as we
intriguing.
talk today.
Yeah, and that's intriguing in itself. And I suppose what we should do right now is show the video. So, boom, here it is. So we've just watched the Alien video there. I've seen this many, many years ago as well, and I heard Art Bell talking about it many, many years ago on the radio. Um, can you give us the background to what the Alien interview is, what it purports to show, and when was it filmed, etc.?
Sure, I can give you the end of the investigation and not the speculation. The 1996, a retired government biologist walks into Fox TV studios, gets a meeting with the unscripted television department. They find he's very hard to deal with. He's a little weird. He appears a little like shabbily, as the other director said, off grid, using that terminology in 96. Fox cannot guarantee his safety and cannot guarantee that they won't use his real name. And basically, they throw Victor out of Fox TV studios. Throwing is a metaphor for get out of here.
Yeah, yeah.
We have reached out to Fox. No one ever thought to do this. We have reached out to the person that was in that department and the blocker, the lady that fielded the phone calls for the unscripted television department. They say the same thing that Rocket Pictures Jeff Broadstreet said about Victor. Victor walks across the street. Kitty corner from across the street is a big newsstand, and I always get the name wrong. Cayuga Boulevard. Victor picks up a Variety magazine. He realizes that he's going to get the same treatment at top level networks. Maybe he should find a low level production company or a second tier production company. He opens up Variety magazine. He sees a humorous golf video. Either it was Rodney Dangerfield a golf video on VHS that a place called Rocket Pictures out of Beverly Hills was selling. Victor feels that maybe they'll help me expose this video. He calls Rocket Pictures. The CEO, Tom Coleman, takes the call. I've spoken with Tom. I've been on calls with Tom, so I'm speaking from experience.
Hmm.
He gives the call to director Jeff Broadstreet, who was at the Beverly Hills offices that day. Of course, Jeff Broadstreet's going to say, "Come on in. I want to see the 3-minute video." Hangs up. Victor takes a taxi cab. Very important, you know this. Takes a taxi cab to the Rocket Pictures offices. While he's doing that, Jeff Broadstreet calls up his friend, Sean David Morton, who really in 96 was doing some groundbreaking work, in so fact that Sean was one of the first people to go to Kickaboo Point, the only place where you could see into Area 51. He caused according to Victor and other military people we now know 30 years later, caused a huge issue as far as them wanting to move Area 51 or move certain segments of certain programs because Sean had outed them having the ability to look into Area 51. Sean starts making his way. This is like the JFK assassination point by point, but Sean Morton starts to make his way to the offices as Victor arrives at Rocket Pictures. Jeff Broadstreet describes Victor as this. He appeared off grid. I don't know what that means. I have not unpacked that with Jeff. But Jeff said in 96, he appeared off grid. A major pain in the ass. That is a direct quote from, and we can tell that on the video. Major pain in the ass, very, and Jeff used specific, very difficult to deal with. And they watched the video together, and Jeff said, "Okay, let me, take this to Tom Coleman. Let me see, and I know how this works now, see if any of the networks will bite on this, which is called a pitch meeting. Hey, I
Hmm.
got this guy, I've got this bizarre video. Would you be interested in us putting together a 2-hour documentary? And how much? Oh, you're interested. How much would you want? You want to see the pitch deck, which is like a formal presentation of what you will show in the documentary. And they're making phone calls to see if they can sell this because at the very onset, Jeff Broadstreet said, it looked a little bit more bizarre than a really bad hoax, meaning like,
Mm.
you couldn't really make out that this was a puppet or, what this really was. It was enough provenance to sell this and not be laughed at. And they bring Victor back in. They sign him to an NDA and a contract. They pay him in cash. Okay.
Interesting. Yeah.
Actors don't get paid in cash in Hollywood, folks. Yeah, some completely loser, irrelevant actors get paid. But central casting, you write the agent or the agency a check, then they pay the actor. This is how it's worked. They pay Victor cash, and he sits down for an interview to talk about the provenance of the film. Victor claims the film was shot in 1991. The bean came to the facility S4, which is around Papoose Lake, south of Area 51, in 1989. Um, I guess probably later we'll talk about what I actually found out further about the bean in the
Hmm.
film. And he said that this is a telepathic thought projection. He claims the bean died shortly after this interview program, which started in '89 and was about once every month to 6 weeks. They sat the bean down for questions. And he claims that the Department of Naval Intelligence was running that interview at the time, even though it was the Air Force that owned the property, the Defense Intelligence Agency that owned S2 Alpha, the building on top, and the S4 facility underneath the building. And the Defense Intelligence, the Department of the Department of Naval Intelligence was running the interview session, which we've later found out that there was multiple third letter agencies waiting to insert their questions to this being, almost like a conga line outside the door of this interview room. And Victor goes away, comes back 10 years later. He claims he's dying. He is gobsmacked that no one in the UFO community has done any research that he has heard of, no FOIA requests, no trying to find who made the puppet, if is it a puppet. He is actually mad, and this is what just hit me in the face. He's actually mad at ufologists who say, "Oh, it's real," but did nothing to prove that it's real. I don't know if that's a hoax or mentality where you're mad at people that are perpetuating your statement that the video is real of a real alien. He's mad at people that do that because they've done no research to prove that claim. He
Mm.
also claims that that the 2012 calendar is off. And it's not that exact date, which was proven when the X class solar flare almost hit the Earth, missing us by, I think, 4 or 5 days, which would have really ended life on Earth in 2012. And he goes away and he's never heard from again until we start researching who he is.
Yeah. So
A lot to
an
unpack.
interesting
I
one.
know.
A
I'm
lot
sorry.
lot to unpack there, but let's go
Take
in
your
with
time.
this. How was that tape then released to the public? Did that documentary go out, or was it just sneakily shoved in somewhere that I saw it?
Yes, because of the catastrophe of the alien autopsy and people coming forward that they hoaxed it, no networks would touch this. So it was released in May of 1997 on a brand new American network called the UPN, on a program called Strange Universe. I even got this wrong. I thought Fox released it. I'm embarrassed 4 years ago when I didn't realize it wasn't Fox. It was the UPN network on a weekly episodic program called Strange Universe, and they did a 2 hour special documentary for the release of this film, May of 1997. That's
And
when I saw it.
what were the results of the public airing at that time? What was the general consensus on it?
Again, because it came off the heels of the alien autopsy, we call this the forgotten alien video, the forgotten video in ufology, even though people now call it the Zapruder film of ufology, and I think that's
Mm.
accurate. But yeah, it did not. The ratings did not do well. It kind of dropped off the radar screen of ufology, and until YouTube came about, and this was one of the first, not the very first, but when in the start of YouTube and the start of the internet taking hold, this was one of the first kind of videos that actually gained traction on the internet and started to get back into the lexicon of people's verbiage and mentality. And but still a forgotten video
Yeah.
until we started researching it and putting it out into the internet and podcasts and chat rooms and whatnot, and getting people to talk about it, which is what I'm was contractually obligated to do by the person that's trying to get the money so we can finish this documentary. And I just would like to end with this, that I'm very, very, very proud of myself and my team that to this date we have taken no money from any UFO researchers, UFO interested people, the UFO public, the public at large. I've actually donated money to podcasters and went the other way. I've spent about $20,000 of my own money researching and the travel and the equipment and paying special effects people and video people to look at the film, interviewing police officers and doing my own research. So it's people that want to throw out grifter or con man. There's no grift. Con men don't spend their own money and then don't collect any money. That's unless you're a complete idiot. Again, I've collected no money. I don't want any money from any UFO people. I've donated towards podcasters that have helped spread the word and needed a loan or needed money from time to time. I don't say that negatively. I say that proudly. Like I put into the UFO community rather than extracted.
Rather than taken
And
away. Yeah.
again, my last thing with anti-grifter, don't like, click, and subscribe to any of my videos. I don't want you to send me any money. And most importantly is we're going to have Hollywood finish this documentary, not actual people. And the last thing is, I just simply wanted to find the truth. I do not care either way if this was an actual alien or an animatronic alien. I simply want to know the truth. That is just something that's inside me that after 30 years, I just need to find it out. And that's all I'm here for. So you don't have to yell at me, scream, or tell me I'm fat or I got crazy eyes or it's fake. It's fake. Just, I'm just here trying to find the truth, and I hope people respect that.
Well, I do. Look, put it this way: the intentions are solid, aren't they? I think everyone in life, on no matter
Thank you.
what topic, should go for the truth, nothing else,
Yeah,
and wherever that leads, so be it. But the truth is the
amen.
truth, yeah. So, if prior to you getting involved, where was it left off with the public? Was it left off as a hoax, or was it left off as an unknown quantity?
It's a really good question. I think a lot of people, I don't. This is going to sound weaselly and evasive. It's not. This is just my opinion because
Mhm.
I didn't know a lot of UFO people, but I knew enough people that watched documentary. My friends and colleagues and whatnot. And I just think a lot of people like me were like, it maybe looks fake, but it's weird. It was the weirdness of that tape. And when you put it against CGI alien interviews and other fake aliens, it does make you sit back and be like, it's got a creepy feeling. Maybe that's because it was on 16 millimeter film. The lighting, which Rocket Picture darkened the film. This was originally like a bluish haze it was not
Okay.
that dark when it came to Rocket Pictures. They darkened it. I just think most people kind of had a non opinion on it. And I'm not being a weasel here, a non opinion because it was darkened. So it could have been a puppet, but there was a bizarre quality to it. So, and when you bombard the brain with two polarities, the brain shuts down and doesn't want to talk about it. And I'm not being scientific. I think really this is what has happened with this film with people. They can't get a grip on it, so they forget it. And I understand that, and I don't blame them.
And I think that's what's happened to me. I think it fell off my radar many, many years ago. Art Bell talked about it. I watched it. He followed up maybe on a couple of episodes, and that was it. It's
Right.
gone. It's out of my brain. You're on to the next thing. You're thinking of something else, aren't you? Yeah. I can't
Exactly.
remember
Yeah.
whether it was described back then as a hoax or real or an unknown quantity. That's why I threw in that question.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, it was
yeah.
unknown quantity. Art Bell did not think it was a hoax, and Art Bell was emphatic that he was talking to an actual government employee who was blowing the whistle. I mean, Art
Mm.
Bell, who has conducted thousands of hours of interviews with people, was emphatic on air that he had talked to an actual whistleblower.
Exactly. Someone who does that for a living, they get a read on a people very quickly, and
Correct.
you
Yep.
know, so there's that. Um, I'm not going to say that you suggest that this is real because obviously you've said you're not interested one way or t'other if it is real or if it isn't. You just want the truth, right? Which is admirable.
Right.
Um,
Right.
what
Thank you.
evidence do you know, or sorry, do you now have that points this away from fake hoax to a possible
Oh
reality? If
God.
if there's a lot.
flash something on the screen. And I don't want, I know there's trolls that'll stop motion and hopefully I'm just gonna, can you see the back of all of the points of interest on this thing?
I can only
Here,
see a
this
white
this
sheet of paper.
this is okay. I'm gonna show you. Okay, this is the back of the paper. I am
Oh,
very
okay.
proud of this. This is the monitor section. These are all points of that have at least one page of notes from me on. Here is the alien being. All of the points of investigation that I did down to here. Here is site 2, site S4, all the way down to here. Here is about the film and the DIA and the memo I received all the way down here. And here's Victor himself. Every single one of these has at least one page of notes of investigation.
I couldn't actually
So,
see anything there. Sorry.
and what did you see my finger pointing down?
I saw your finger, and that was about it. No,
Okay,
that's no
yeah, I know I
data
was
on there.
showing the backside, but I'm just saying that's how long each list was,
Okay.
is my point. So look, the proof is that you have to absorb the story and the investigation that I went on. I have said this over and over again, ladies and gentlemen. We do not have the alien body in formaldehyde, and we do not have, after 30 years, the alien puppet in someone's trunk or of their car, or the boot of their car, as
Mm.
people from England would say, or in somebody's special effects studio. So 100% you'll never be able to do this unless you have either one of those. But it is the research that I believe builds the chronology of that something. And again, I want to use this language specifically. Something is very eyebrow raising about my 5 year investigation into this film. Much like if you watched 9/11 Loose Change, that documentary, does that documentary prove, or any good JFK documentary, does that prove conclusively who the shooter was, or who was behind the 9/11 tragedy? No. Does it make you raise your eyebrows and ask questions? Yes. And
Hmm.
that is how I would describe, after 5 years of clubbing podcasts, that's what I think people will take from this documentary is, he didn't prove it 1000% either way, but goddamn, did this guy come up with some eyebrow raising information, including who was in the room watching this being. Now, whether you want to believe that memo or not that I received, that's up to you. But we've gotten some interesting and eyebrow raising documentation. If you would like me to briefly go over it, I don't know how much time we have.
Oh, we got plenty of time, so yeah, go through it.
Okay.
And
Okay.
specifically,
So
go on. You
go
carry on.
ahead.
No, sorry, you go ahead.
Well, let's just talk about Victor. And I'm just going to run point
Hmm.
by point, because people don't, the skeptics will never believe my story. So why even try to, let's talk about Victor. So we prove he went to Fox. We prove he went to Rocket Pictures, Fox Pictures, Fox Studio have both said the guy was real. We didn't hire him as an actor. He worked for the government. I'm just asking people right off the bat, because FX people, Hollywood, the government, and ufology all said for 30 years, and they can't take it back. If you prove who Victor is, then you prove the provenance of this video. If he's an actor, well, it's a hoax. If you
Hmm.
prove that he was a government employee, well, what is a government employee walking around with a $30 to $80,000 hoax 3 minute production of an alien? Coordinating the animatronics and the people in the room. So I'm just going by what ufologists told me 30 years ago. Prove who Victor is. I proved who Victor is. He's a former government biologist. He was the caretaker of the deceased aliens down in S4, meeting with dignitaries and government officials, whether that be military or publicly elected officials, who had the authorization to view the alien bodies and to understand the modalities of Project Aquarius. I have proven beyond a shadow of a doubt who Victor is, along with this picture, that he was not an actor and a government employee. And I proved this with 2 film studios. Okay. We
Hmm.
have an alleged century down in S2 that claimed, yes, it was a biologist that was part of this disgruntled cabal to get this film out. We have John Lear, 10 years before the Victor documentary comes out. Please, folks, listen to me. 10 years before Victor comes out, John Lear tells George Knapp there's an alien interview film that's going to show an alien actually being questioned by the government. Now we know that this is not the Alien Victor film. This is the Daniel Sheehan, the lawyer, the ufologist, the lawyer, uh, who has been told was told on a deathbed confession by an Air Force person of an alien interview film that has, that left the facility and that is out and about in the public. And that was an Air Force film. So we have two provenances of that. There was two alien films before Victor even ever appears. The Guard and John Lear. Whatever you think of John Lear, how did he know there was an alien interview film that leaked out 10 years before Victor appeared? You
Mm.
can't reconcile those two as a
No.
hoax. Um, we know what Victor died of. We know why he had a back scratcher and why his skin was itchy, as crazy as that sounds. We know why he was so adamant and did not like Cheney and Rumsfeld, because he met them when he showed them the deceased aliens at S4 in the second level in the liquid storage. And I'm sure Donald Rumsfeld asked ridiculous questions. Um, we have Victor saying that the medical staff was chosen more for their ability to keep secrets than their medical knowledge. I finally contacted a widow of one of the doctors who was tending to that alien being. Okay. How could this be hoaxed? I got the name from a 70-something-year-old person who had contact with the DIA. I researched the name. I find the widow. What's the first thing she tells me about her doctor husband, who was at S4? He never told me anything about his time in the Army Medical Corps. He was so secretive. So,
Yeah, yeah.
we've got a geriatric lady in 2022 backing up what Victor said about the medical staff in 96. I mean, let me see what else on Victor. And we have his face. I've shown it to three podcasters now. It's not Bob Dean. The infamous it's Bob, not Bob Dean. There's a guy, he's become a friend of mine, Stephen Cambion from the podcast Truth Seekers. He's the most ardent skeptic in ufology. I actually appreciate that, because I think everyone who's coming forward with anything should really kind of filter what they're going to say through his lens, because he's so skeptical. I've actually had him change his wordage about the alien interview, which he thinks is fake. But he no longer says it's Bob Dean, that Victor was Bob Dean. I have proven different ties. I've shown Victor's face to podcasters who say that's not Bob Dean. So he's not Bob Dean, folks. And so I've knocked those dominoes down. Let's just quickly talk about the facility. Victor talks about a facility called S4. I have received the satellite photo of S4 to the northwest of Papoose Lake. I have the FOIA document from the 60s when the CIA built this underground laboratory. I have a FOIA document from the government that it was built by the CIA, handed over to the Air Force, and then the Air Force let the Defense Intelligence Agency run the alien retention and interview program. I have 5 people now. Nobody wants to talk about this in the UFO world because it gets like we're proving the video. I have 5 people now that have come forward to say S4 is real. The building that sits above the ground is called S2 Alpha. We have the document that says Site 2 Alpha is the
Mm.
building with the underground lab. I've got the federal document. So Victor was telling the truth about this before we had the documents and before anyone came forward about S4 S2. Um, okay, let's the film. We sent this to Bill Mums, who did National Geographic analysis of the Patterson Gimlin Bigfoot film. He's unsure himself. He's like, John, I can't tell you one way or the other, but there's a head scratcher. I'm like, oh God, now what? He said that every foam doll, and FX people have never told me any different. Every foam latex doll, and if this was fake, we think dragon skin, a product called dragon skin, might have been used. That they have a crease in their armpits because during the drying process, the arms have to come down towards the body and it forms a crease. He sends me 50 pictures from the 50s all the way to 2021 of aliens and foam creatures with creases in their armpits. You know what doesn't have a crease in their armpits? My alien. And
Mm.
he can't explain it. and he was hired by National Geographic. So I didn't pull somebody off the street. We've had people say it's got a valid SMPTE stamp, which is something that video documentation uses. It's got DNI/27 on the bottom of the film. Um, People have said, well, the Department of Navy intelligence doesn't exist. We have a naval aviator, former CIA field officer, and we also have another person that has come forward to say the Department of Naval Intelligence is a real company. It's an agency in the Department of Navy. It's kind of where the CIA of the Navy, that's where their assets are in the Department of Naval Intelligence. We have three people. And then we found Department of Naval Intelligence on a Canadian brochure for an intelligence conference. Yes.
Yeah.
So, how would a screenwriter just please let's answer this if you could. How would a screenwriter in 96 writing out Victor's speech know that the Department of Naval Intelligence was a real agency and to have the balls to put it on the bottom of this film? Yes, Bob Lazar said DNI, but why would you put it on the bottom of this film if you would want somebody to be able to go prove your film, like putting on the CIA or Department of Navy?
Mm.
Why would you put down three letters on the bottom of this film? And I'm going to get to the bombshell right away. The number 27. Victor says it's a gerrymandered cataloging system. I never believed that, even in 97. We found out why 27 was on there. 27 is a security designation called Yankee White. And Yankee White is for anyone that deals or has contact with the President of the United States. And we got the memo from the DIA, a leaker at the DIA, which has a person in it at Rear Admiral Ned Schaefer, who was Colin Powell's head of intelligence. We have him in the Oval Office briefing George Bush with Colin Powell in the late 80s, early 90s. So that is why 27 is on the bottom of this film, because a man that had contact with the president, Rear Admiral Ned Schaefer, deceased, he's one of the only names I'm releasing, was in that viewing gallery. Okay. And he was later going to go on and brief George Bush with Colin Powell about this, what the answers were, so to speak, from this alien being. I just want to ask your listeners a relatively simple question. How could somebody, a screenwriter in their 20s in 1996, know about the security designation number 27? And then understand that you couldn't get into S4 unless you had the Yankee White security clearance. That was the clearance for Project Aquarius. And how would you know in 96, a screenwriter in Southern California, that the numerical designation of Yankee White was the number 27? Come on. I mean,
Yeah.
come on. It's pathetic at that time. Um, all of the names that were in the room that were given to me by a DIA leaker, all were on Google. Were all real intelligence people. I was given their names and ranks, I find out, from 91. I think it was if that was hoax, that was a very smart thing to give
Mm.
me a list from 91 and to give their ranks in 91, not what they retired with in 2022. I thought that was very interesting. Again, I spoke to the widow of the doctor to our left, to the alien's right, and she identified him. Yes, he had a mask right here on his nose, but you can clearly see, she said, that's my husband. And she told a story of why that he was secretive. He would never talk about his time in the Army Medical Corps, even though their friend group, who were all in military, would always tell humorous stories. He never interacted with a story of his own. She said, John, it was actually a bone of contention between us. He had a nickname. And now she said, and I'll never forget this, the light bulb has gone off over my head. You've solved a mystery between me and my husband. I get it. 75 years old, 77, however old she was. I mean, really? I mean, do you really think that a woman would right off the bat tell me that her husband was secretive? And that's what Victor said 30 years prior? Come on, ladies and
Mm.
gentlemen. Come on, please.
Well,
So
there's a
that's,
lot of stuff there, isn't there, adding up to tell
well,
you
yeah,
or
there is.
point you in that direction of a real scenario.
Real scenario, real people.
Mm.
Even if the video, which I again, I even if it was 3% faked by the government with their magic program. And people have told me about government, how they fake events and videos to kind of soft release it and to put themselves that we're not responsible for that. Even if it was 3%, I'm telling you something, folks. And this is why my emails have disappeared. My phone has been electronically incurred. And that's why I went to the police department and to the FBI and submitted this report to Congress. Now, if I'm a hoaxer or a grifter, then I've committed about 4 felonies: lying to the FBI,
Mm.
lying to Congress, lying to the police. I'm not lying. This is what was shown to me, and I had someone um, uh, uh, who was familiar with Congress make a joke that I find it funny. You took a government document and handed it over to another government agency that gets the money for that agency, the DIA, and people are saying that it's a hoax. I mean, all I did was take one document from one agency over to Congress, who funds that agency, the DIA. And so, again, I have taken this with this validity to Congress, the FBI, and to my local police department about my emails disappearing. Apple can't explain it. We hired a hacker. He can't explain it. Well, he said one thing. It's either two G's, God or the government. That's it. Nobody could take 4 separate email platform emails off your phone. That's scary. That's scary.
Mm.
I had a person who was an agent of the National Air and Space Intelligence Center. I haven't talked about this a lot because it terrifies me. Who told me in a text message, "You are now on a quote special Pentagon watch list for the nature of the questions you wanted to ask me that you submitted to the NAISC." Okay, I was going to interview a person from the National Air and Space Intelligence Center at Wright-Patterson. So this
Ah.
got deep. And those questions were sent to the Pentagon and the alarm bells went off. He was ordered to text me that I'm on a special Pentagon watch list because of my FOIA requests, my overseas emails, and the nature of the questions to the National Air and Space Intelligence Center. My FOIA requests have gone missing. I've had to call the FOIA department, who told me your file is missing, but your name is on our computer, and that isn't. Folks, listen to me. Your name is on our computer, but the file is missing. Why is that important? I asked the FOIA department at DIA. They said, well, that means you can't get on here unless you submitted a file request. That means somebody came in and removed it. That was said to me. On my
Mm.
right hand to God, that was said to me by a person in the FOIA department at DIA. Someone came in and had to have removed the file, but couldn't remove your name. Just asking people, if all of this is a hoax, I'm a grifter, it's all bull. Why is the DIA removing files? And why is the NSA not giving me a file on myself? And they keep asking me to send an appeal, send an appeal. Why my email's missing? Why is this happening if this is a hoax, fake video, and there is no Project Aquarius and aliens aren't real? Nobody's ever been able to ask me that, why
Well,
this is
they
happening to
won't be
me.
able to answer that question because they know as well as you do that all those signs point to something real in the background, don't they? Clearly.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's a lot of supplementary evidence pointing towards the reality of it rather than the fakeness of it, as it was probably left off. Um, Now, you've obviously mentioned why it was in the dark because you said it was lighter, and the film company had darkened it for probably effect on TV, etc. Obviously, that helps hide if you would call it a puppet or the alien. That would help hide it. Therefore, you can't determine more detail. Have
Correct.
we done anything to the video that enhances it somehow, or to to give you extra clarity here and there?
Question. Even though that uh I'm not going to speak ill of him, there was another person that did a frame by frame analysis, even though he missed some big things that he refused to show people. Um, where he saw that the skin moved above the eye. I have shown that the eye has five different shapes. Why would you spend the money to do that animatronically? We have shown the close up, folks. I'm going to send the film. I'm going to send the bluish colored video how it originally came, but I want you to zoom in just the mouth at the end of that video, and that mouth goes open and close like a
Mm.
fish's mouth seamlessly. And in effects, people do a dance. It's remote control cables. There's a hand in the mouth. It's a puppet. Just craziness. But if you look at that mouth open and close, and it looks like a fish's mouth opening and closing seamlessly, I find that hard to believe that that could have been done for the cost of that this rocket pictures had or anybody had to make that video, other than the government. And we have found that the glass monitor that we think was a laser beam going up and down on it. It's not just glass. We found, I found this. The guy from National Geographic found that it was bracketed by a metal bracket. It was an actually made, manufactured device. This is crazy. You're not going to believe what I'm about to say. We see one segment where the alien's right arm, the arm to our left, goes flat as a pancake, like Kermit the Frog, a Muppet, where it almost looks like material. It goes flat. I'll send you this.
Yeah,
So I'm like,
please.
well, I've got my, yeah, yeah. Now, the other guy in England never showed anybody this. He claims, well, I knew it was just a shadow. Well, why wouldn't you still be honest with people and say, hey, look at this, and I'll tell you why it looks like this? To hide that from the public means, you're a scam artist. I'm sorry. You're trying to nudge this investigation in one way, and no one can ever say that I tried to position this documentary in any other way except finding the truth. So I go to special. I still can't believe I'm saying this. I go to three special effects people. I show them the alien's arm looking like a flat Muppet's arm. And all three of them go, oh, we didn't do that. I'm like, wait, what? They're like, we would never do that. That's horrible. That means like the alien is an inflatable balloon, so to speak. Nobody, that's impossible. I'm like, wait a minute. You're telling me the most glaring, obvious frame that shows that it's a puppet, an animatronic doll. You're telling me that that is not something a special effects person could do or would do. And they all said, well, yes, that means the whole body's an inflatable creature. And we definitely know it's not an inflated body. It's foam latex. So how does foam latex go flat like a pancake? So can you imagine me? I'm like, wait, wait a minute. I just thought I proved the video was fake. Special effects people are yelling at me. I mean, yelling at me. We couldn't have done that. We would have never done that. That's impossible. And I'm like, okay. Now I get an email from one of the special effects people. You need to talk to my cousin, uncle, cousin. I forget what he said. He's a zoologist. It's called I found what it's called. A person that deals with reptiles, a herpetologist. And he said, I was talking to my nephew, and he said that, there's a moment in the video where the arm goes flat. I just want to tell you that I have always heard that some aliens have a reptilian skin or appearance, or, I've always heard reptilians, and with aliens, I'm not seeing anything else. He goes, I'm telling you as a expert in reptiles, when certain reptiles are fearful or they are nervous or they are facing danger, their body goes flat as a pancake. And you may have experienced that with that alien being.
Yeah, that adds some more fuel to the
I'm
fire,
like,
doesn't it?
come on. I got FX people telling me the biggest part of the video that I found is not does not prove it's a hoax. I mean, can you empathize with me how crazy
I
this
can.
this
You're
has all
it's up
gotten
and
for
down, up
me?
and down. Yeah. Now that arm going flat, is it like just temporary, or is it goes flat and then it stays flat for the rest of it?
Great. Oh, great question. You never get a clear picture of the arm after that. And I'm not going to say that it blows up again, or you're never able to see it again because the flashlight is not shown on it ever again. So
Ah, okay.
I again trying not to be a grifter or yes, yes, yes. I have no idea if that arm ever re-expanded. But all I am telling you is that FX people have told me that is not something a special effects person would do. That means it's an inflatable doll, and that's impossible. This was all they kept using dragon skin FX, a foam latex doll. The arm could never go flat as a pancake. It's impossible. Now, what do I do?
I don't know. Now I'm going to operate the next set of questions on the basis
Yes.
that the alien is real. Okay,
Yeah.
because that side intrigues me more than if it was a hoax.
Sure.
Right? Naturally, it opens up more things. So first off, do we have the info on the names of the other people in the video? Not obviously you mentioned the one doctor. Do we have the names of the other doctor, and then who was behind?
Okay. there's two people in the foreground. You see their shoulders.
Hmm.
We have proved the person on our left that gets his shoulder gets in the way was a African American Army general. We think the shoulder patch was bluish. It's African American in his 40s, early 50s, United States Army general, because we see the stars. Some have said it's Colin Powell. I had two sketch artists draw me the picture. He looks like another general who was African American. There wasn't a lot of African American generals in 1991, so
Mm.
this was not a big investigation. It doesn't appear to the 10 people I've showed this picture where we have lightened it of this gentleman that it is Colin Powell. It's an African American general, but in their opinion, in my opinion, it's not him. I'm not going to argue. What does it matter? I mean, yes, it matters if Colin Powell was there, but let's move on. Let's not focus on that. Okay, the DIA memo that a whistleblower, my main whistleblower, who is a wealthy philanthropist in a metropolitan city, who got a contact in the DIA to send me this memo, has the one two the three military men in the room and the two doctors and two telepaths. I do not have the names of the telepaths, but for the first time, I will tell you on the internet, I have a photo of one of the telepaths. I want to repeat that. I have a photo of one of the telepaths. Whether it's real or not, that's up for people's debate. We'll show that in the documentary. So if you want me to go over the names very quickly, the first name on the list was well, God, I almost screwed. I can't give you the first name. Here's the names
Okay,
I
don't
can give
worry.
you that have leaked. Yes. The first person on the list was an Army intelligence. I look him up at 91. He was with TRW. I'm like, well, this is a hoax. My investigator and Sean Morton said TRW. That's like the black arm of the government secret research. That even proves even more that he could have been part of this video. The second person on the list um, was captain in naval intelligence. This name has leaked out. He retired a rear admiral. Um, if you look this person up, I will not say his name, but if you can look up on X or Twitter, some of the list leaked out because I'm an idiot and I didn't redact it good enough. He retired a rear admiral. I emailed him 3 or 4 times. I was going to go visit him in Virginia to go out to lunch to talk about my documentary until he wanted to know what my documentary was about. And I sent the name. I sent him the list, the investigation with his name on it, and he ghosted me. So one of
Mm.
the men in the room I communicated with, and he was a captain back in 91, which verifies the list. The next name was a Dr. Craig McPherson. I'm not very intelligent. I Googled the name. He's a cardiologist in Connecticut. I'm like, oh my God, you see him with his lab coat. I'm like, oh my God, this is incredible. He was a cardiologist, meaning with breathing, and the alien had a breathing attack. I was wrong about that. I don't want anybody to fall off the chair. It's a ufologist that's admitting he was wrong, but I do it a lot because that's my credibility. I was wrong about Dr. Craig McPherson. Do you know who Dr. Craig McPherson is? He was a scientist in Area 51 that Linda Moulton Howe interviewed in 1995, where he claims he was a scientist stationed at Area 51.
Mm.
Okay,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, kind of weird. The next person is the doctor, okay, whose widow I talked to, who right off the bat says he was secretive. This all makes sense. This is why he didn't tell me his time in the Army Medical Corps. You know what's weird about him? He's a doctor. He died in his 80s. There's not one thing about him on the internet. Not he hit a hole in one at a golf course, his daughter's marriage. All it is his obituary on the internet, and not a long one at that. And I've had military people tell me, well, he was sheep dipped. They kind of erase
Oh, I
as
see.
much
Yeah,
as
yeah,
they
yeah.
can your bio.
Mm.
And that's what Bob Lazar claims. That's what Captain Dan Burrish, who claims he was down at S4. This is what Richard Doty has told me. And people say, oh, you brought up Richard Doty. Yeah. Richard Doty is one of two men who have the DD 214 from the military that put him at S2 and the S2 complex. I don't know if people realize that. So that's why I talked to Richard Doty. Doty doesn't know hardly anything about this film, the men in it. He left in 1988. Just to be clear. And so I talked to the doctor's widow. I told you about the one other doctor, which was Craig McPherson. There are people that think the doctor to the aliens left, our right, is former White House physician, Dr. Connie Mariano, who ran the Naval Hospital in San Diego. Very weird. Somebody saw a tuffet of black hair coming out of the hospital cap, and it
Hmm.
looked like a female. I don't think the forearm looks like a female, but again, why argue and belabor that point when we're
Mm.
never really going to find out at this point? This is taking us away from the investigation. And then it said there were um, two telepaths in the room that were part of an institution. That's as far as I can go with them. And I have one of the things. And what does Victor tell us? That that the telepaths, were not that successful in this program. And then it says that there was a United States Air Force security outside the door of the interview room, and then a U.S. Air Force cameraman in the room. Now, Victor is doesn't really talk about specifically how this was actually taken from S4, where you're weighed in the nude when you go in and you're weighed in the nude when you leave. So I always said, how could he smuggle a VHS tape or a CD-ROM in the crack of his butt, or everything is weighed, looked at? Well, we found out with the memo. I think, in my opinion, the biggest secret, the biggest revelation with this memo and this film is how did it get the hell out of Area 51? And it tells us that the cameraman took the film back to the Groom Lake Photo Lab. That's what it said. It didn't say Area 51 Photo Pro. Groom Lake Photo Lab. 3 days later, he makes two copies of the film. A 3-minute copy is put into a burn bag. I have to say this specifically because I've been hollered at. He puts the overlay graphic on it, digital overlay graphic, dog, where it says DNI 27 for
Hmm.
cataloging and for security clearance. He takes the 3-minute film and he sticks it into a burn bag and puts it into a GSA approved vault, security vault. And then that is then removed, put into a gym bag, and it is taken off, whistled off of Area 51. Now, wait a minute. I've talked to, interviewed 5 people who have been on Area 51, many of them with radar applications. All 5 of them said the same thing. Yes, EG&G did the flights and the buses to Area 51. Wackenhut did the out perimeter security. The security in Area 51 is done by U.S. Air Force police officers stationed based out of Nellis Air Force Base. And they all said the same thing. You would know some of these policemen for 3 or 4 years. Sometimes they would check your pockets. Sometimes they wouldn't. On entering, they check your bag. They wouldn't check your bag on leaving. Sometimes you were just given a pass through if you didn't have much bags or baggage on you. I had a woman tell me sometimes my purse was checked, other times it was never checked. And she said, yes, I can totally believe somebody smuggling a little canister of film or, film in a gym bag and over your shoulder. And, the guard, or maybe the day that specific guard who's lackadaisical is on duty. And that is how it was taken out of Area 51. And I am so proud that somebody trusted me with that information, because I think the whole provenance of Victor falls apart because nobody could tell me how he got that film out. And even Victor tap dances how he got the film out. I now have the provenance of how that film was taken out. And now there's no more barriers to proving Victor in his story, at least his story is hoaxable.
Mm.
Because I brought down how the film was removed.
See, weirdly enough, to me, I don't see the removal of it out is necessarily as the big stumbling block. I mean, it's great that you've proven a theory to get it out, but to me, that
Right.
wouldn't be the biggest thing, because there's always going to be days where security is lax on no matter where you go, on whatever
Are you
field. You're
sure
still
about
dealing
that?
with.
You're going to get, are you
Well,
sure? Because
yeah,
the internet warriors are going to
I'm
come after
sure on
you
it,
now.
and I'll tell you why. Because you're dealing
Careful.
with people, and people are
Thank
fallible.
you. Thank you. Do you know? I don't mean to interrupt you.
Mhm.
Do you know? I am so glad I did this interview. Do you know how many people that I've interviewed? I'm going to show the list real quick. You know how many people I've interviewed? All have told me the same thing. John, we're human beings. We like to talk. We make mistakes. We have other issues at home where it fails for us to do our job. We get angry. We want revenge. We have marital problems, blah, blah, blah. So thank you for saying that. Thank you. God
Good, no
bless you
worries.
for
It
saying that.
is true. Now, like I said, I do want to get on to assuming that it's real, and I would tend to think it is because I like to err on the side of positivity and until proven false. Yeah, that's where I would
Right.
lie for most things.
Exactly.
But I'm also highly skeptical, so I understand that as well.
As am I.
We have a transcript of the entire video. I mean, not just the small clip. You know, you got the 3 minute video. There's apparently,
Right.
isn't it 56 minutes long or something like that?
Okay, that's another. That's okay.
Or is that
So
different?
the video that Victor smuggled out and used for rocket pictures was 2 minutes 56 seconds long. In my investigation, an intelligence community member said, "Look, there's two films out there. One is just under an hour." I'm like, "Well, who's got that filmed?" He's like, "It's just under an hour, and then what Victor smuggled out." And we have now somebody that came forward 2 weeks ago, a tech guru who's from France and lived in Senegal, who while he was in France and while he was doing work with a former scientist from Area 51, he was shown a just under an hour VHS tape of this interview.
Hmm.
So that is the provenance of a 56-minute film that was on the DIA memo. It was this VHS tape that was shown to the. I'm not seeing the exact tape, but there
Hmm.
was two films made. The 16 millimeter film, which Victor smuggled out, or actually, I'm sorry, actually, the United States Air Force cameraman smuggled out of Area 51. I wanted to get that straight. Victor did not take the film out of Area 51. It was the cameraman. And then we have a picture of the military aide to the right where his shoulder comes in play. He picks up the phone to call the medics. He is holding a Sony Video Walkman, which came out in '89. So I said to myself, well, somebody had a VHS camera rolling. Yes. That's the 56-minute film that this one contact was shown and went public that he was shown it. So I found the
Okay.
provenance of that too, also, which was I was grateful.
I suppose what I'm trying to get at is, do we have any written, um, the actual notations of what was said by whom? So when the
No,
alien is
I
being
don't.
responding, we don't have that now.
Right. No,
Oh,
but
that's a shame.
Yeah, that is a shame. Daniel Sheehan said that in the 60s, this Air Force colonel and his aide, he talked to the aide who refused to go in the room. He said the Air Force colonel came out with 3x5 cards of questions that he was asking the being and the answers from the being. So um, somebody has laid claim to documentation being written down. I would assume that is why the government filmed this because these were big events, but also because they could go back and retranscribe what the general or what the telepath would say that the being is putting into his head. Because we've also found out that it's not really telepathy, it's thought projection. When you walk into the room, it's almost like the being knows all the questions and they're placed in your head. And when you think about that, as far as aliens and extraterrestrials coming to Earth for millennial, if you don't speak the language, how can you communicate with someone 5,000 years ago that doesn't have the command of English? You would communicate with them effectively by putting pictures in their brain. Think about that. Showing them how to make fires, showing them about language or government or building roads or manufacturing tools or all you would put pictures in their heads because you wouldn't know as an alien, I would think, how to speak, Neanderthal. So it's another interesting little aspect of why telepathy or thought
Yeah.
projection, not telepathy, is used, and how important that was in the evolution of extraterrestrials coming to this planet and communicating effectively with the inhabitants on this planet. That makes total sense. Showing somebody a picture in their brain of how to make fire, how to field dress an animal, so on and so
Oh, of
forth.
course, because that and mathematics are universal communication. So that
Correct.
completely makes sense to me, and has always been
Yeah.
in my mind. Is that's the way it's done.
Yeah.
Now, obviously,
Yep.
without any sort of form of transcript or anything like that, there's no way that you can probably answer these next three questions. But I will ask them anyway, just in
Okay.
case. Do
Sure.
we have information on where, in theory, that alien came from?
Yes, I can speak briefly of the multitude of intelligence people that I've spoke to about the alien phenomenon. So there are three types of grays. They come from the reticulum star system. Okay. Do they come from other places? That's not what I have been told. I am just telling you what has been transmitted to me.
Okay.
So from the reticular star system, and they come from different planets in that star system. And type one is your short gray with the almond eyes, very robotic, a worker bee. Type two is a little taller, a little more of a rounder eye, a little more humanoid looking. These are the Roswell grays. Okay. And then you have type three, which is this tan, peanut butter colored, as Linda Moulton Howe calls my alien, a tan gray that has round eyes. And in the documentation from the DIA, they don't even call it a type three. It's called the other gray. And we have from the Defense Intelligence Agency, alleged Defense Intelligence Agency. I don't want truth seekers to yell at me. Alleged Defense Intelligence Agency internal memo investigation of this theft of this film, that this being in the film was a haploid. It only carried one sexual chromosome. And it did come to the facility, S2 Alpha facility, the alien housing complex in 1999. And I do not know, and I'm proud to say this because I don't want to just say, yes, yes, I know. I don't know any provenance of what, if it crashed, if it came, if it landed. I have no provenance of how the being came to the facility or came on to planet Earth, whether it crashed or just intentionally landed. And we can speculate. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to sound like a grifter.
No, obviously, speculation is one thing, and it's fine for the purpose of these questions because it's just for me and my silliness. So
Sure.
anything
Yeah.
that goes on the
Sure.
web, that's up to
Okay.
other people to take on board. But
Right.
do we
Right.
have details of its name and its species name that it calls itself? I ask this of a lot of people I speak to on the abduction topic
Wow.
and
Yeah.
aliens, and no one can
I,
give me an answer. And I know that's because it's almost impossible. If someone doesn't tell you something, you haven't got the answer. What do you
yeah.
think?
I don't even, yeah. The alien never, in any documentation, ever gave its own personal name. It is believed that this being did communicate what planet it did come from, from the reticulum star system, and I don't want to comment on that right now.
Okay.
Most people wouldn't know about it anyways. I will give you a couple of conjectural stories that you know some some of these beings have said, especially J Rod in the 50s, who was at Los Alamos, I have a soul. We have a soul. I have a family at home, and we've had other intelligence community members in these programs say that they have been communicated that one is a worker, one is an engineer, one is a medical doctor. I don't know if those stories are true. It would make sense. We would realize and we would think that these crafts, some of these craft are manufactured, so there must be a manufacturing facility on a planet somewhere.
Hmm.
Even though I've also been told that a multitude of these extraterrestrials are interdimensional, and it is the flap of interdimensional travel how most of these beings traverse and get to Earth, and that their bodies are suited at other times for interstellar travel, which is why they're a synthetic type of being, so they could take the rigors of a 6 to 9 month travel from their planet to Earth. Now that makes sense. Why would you put anybody in a craft that would be frail, like a human being or a humanoid type person? You would want it to be, hardcore synthetic with some biological material, some robotics, or I like to say it's part machine, it's part biological, it's part machine, which gets me to a point of um, I can't believe this has not been flourishing on the internet, but I think it's the bombshell in the past 15 years of ufology. That agent at the National Air and Space Intelligence Center did tell me one thing before he ghosted me and before I was hollered at by a text message sent to him from the Pentagon to send to me. He said there's a new designation of extraterrestrials, and I will give this to your viewers. Again, an agent from the National Air and Space Intelligence Center from Wright-Patterson, a verified person, because I know three people that have met him. A reporter actually met him. So this is not my imagination. It's an actual person. The new United States military designation of extraterrestrials is SABER, like a sword, SABER, synthetic astrobiological extraterrestrial races. Okay.
Mm.
And he told me, he goes, if you, he was, can I just break for 1 second?
Of course.
Most of the military intelligence people that I have met and witnessed, Dave Grush being one of them, this person from the National Air and Space Intelligence Center, I don't want people to fall off their chair. It is my opinion that the United States government hires and employs some really, really quality people. I know that's crazy for me to say. I've been threatened by these people. They are all pleasant, well mannered, speak softly, speak intelligently. They are all polite. They are all complimentary. They are not evasive. They try and answer as many questions as possible. These are men. I've only dealt with one woman from DARPA. These are men like I would want my daughters to marry. I just wanted to say that to people that there's, I have credibility. Some of my credibility is that I don't rail against the military. They are hiring some very nice human beings, and I just wanted to get that across. But he said to me, he goes, "Now be careful." I said, "Can I talk about this?" I thought I was going to blow you a ufology off its rocker with this new designation. He said, "Look," and he told him, we laughed about it. It was right before Thanksgiving. And he's like, "Look, if you're going to say this on the internet, someone from the military who's in these programs is going to know that you have been read into the new designation." He's like, "You're going to have to give like a preemptive warning." So, and he said, so a general having coffee in his bed in the morning doesn't spit up his coffee all on his wife and his bedspread because a guy from Chicago has the most top secret designation of extraterrestrial off planet beings. So I thought that was humorous, but yes, that's it. This is what they're called. They are informally, to get back on your question, informally and in an informal conversation between people in the know in these programs. They're called the children, the visitors, little guys. So they're all given all kinds of certain vernaculars. The children
Mm.
is one of the most used vernacular for talking about the gray species.
And a bit disconcerting. um, your documentary, how far along is it? Are you complete or are you
Right.
nearly the end?
This has been a point of contention with some of the skeptics out there. He keeps talking about a documentary that never comes to fruition. Thus, we don't see the names. He is becoming a typical UFO grifter. I've got the names, and you'll see them. You'll see them. I can tell you, looking in the camera, on the souls of my children. I don't think many fathers talk about their children's souls. On the souls of my children, I signed my first production agreement, which means, hey, I believe in your story enough to sell this to a network. We're going forward. You give me the rights for your information. I signed that in front of my sister at our family business in 2019. That then went delayed. A new production company signed me to a new shop agreement in 2021. Okay. So if everyone's frustrated, I'm frustrated, but this is Hollywood. It moves at glacial speed. So, not that I owe anybody an explanation, but I want to give people an explanation because I enjoy the support of so many of the people in the UFO research community. I can tell you, looking in the camera, finally, it is now sitting on the desk of a president of unscripted television at a major network right now. So we're in the they call it the loop. We're on the aircraft carrier deck. The engines are on. We're loaded up. We're just ready to execute and get a green light. So
Oh, right. So it's
but
complete then. It's
let me
just
say
ready
one
to be
last thing.
released. It's
Yes,
complete. Yeah, yeah.
finally.
Cool. Excellent.
There's also a documentary that I am producing. This is a Talking Heads documentary that is humorous. It will infuriate people about the media and about the government. And it's about my journey, the journey of getting Hollywood to pay for this and getting the media to report on this. And it is going to infuriate your viewers when they see it. That will definitely be out before the year's end. It's a very low budget. It's Talking Heads. It's basically me and a few other people sitting in a warehouse talking about the entire 5 year journey. And it is really going to be, it's very troubling what the media um, how much the media ignored the facts. And even when David Grush came out, and I can pretty much predict that your viewers will be really pissed off at the media after watching that. And that is called The Bird Dog.
Well, they should be already. And yeah, gotta look out for that. We all know that the media are just more focused on hiding things and or showing someone's ass on a TV
Amen.
show than they are about real information that most of us
Right.
want to know. But hey ho,
Yeah.
we can't change that short of doing what you're doing, i.e., getting involved in changing it from the inside. So there's that.
Yeah.
Now, I want to talk about your book. You've released a book called Magdalena, the Second Roswell Crash. Most people are aware of the the Roswell crash, but that same amount of people probably aren't aware that there was a second one. What is the story behind your second book? Sorry, behind your
Please
book,
just
The Second Crash.
please do me a big favor and just
Mhm.
look in the camera and tell your viewers that I never talked to you about my book or promoting it, because
$100%.
I'll be for that. Okay.
I do
So
my own research and I find out what's going on and then I
thank
ask
you.
questions
Are
that
you
I want
listening,
to know.
people?
That's just
Okay.
it.
'Cause God forbid you should promote something. Anyways, very simple. I heard about the second Roswell crash on a program called UFO Hunters, that was on a History Channel, and the
Mhm.
rerun came on. I'm like, wait a minute, what? So I went on the internet and I found that there was about 5 or 6 people talking about the second crash that happened at Roswell, and it took me like 5 hours to get all of these stories, and I'm like, wait a minute, there's a niche here. These stories should be compiled in a book so people can go to one place and just simply hear about the testimonies the testimonies of 5 people that claim they witnessed and came upon a second crash of Roswell. And so all I simply did was take all of those stories, put them in a book with some fanciful words, and at the end of the book, I give a little one paragraph summation of who probably we should look at, whose story we should probably look at as being the most valid. And it was a fascinating journey, and even more information has been coming out, but it's has Jim Ragsdale, who claimed he was making love to a woman that saw a craft come over his pickup truck. We have the story of Barney Barnett that claimed he came upon archaeologists in the St. Augustine Plains, a craft, and then the military showed up. We have testimony from Richard Doty, who said he was shown a briefing video of the Roswell crash. He was shown a photo in a sketch of the other second crash, how when that crash was discovered in 1959 by a rancher, and that the two craft, the original Roswell Mac Braswell Corona craft, and this craft crashed together, and you could see the damage on the two crafts. We have Eric Davis, who's a physicist, who claims that he saw velo binded documentation at the Pentagon describing a Roswell crash, and that they were manta ray shaped vehicles. We have Linda Moulton Howe that has provided us a picture of a chrome egg shaped craft and under a tarp going through downtown Roswell. So that's different than the manta ray shaped
Hmm.
craft that the Pentagon described. And we have Colonel Richard French, an Air Force aviator in military intelligence, that wrote a book that came forward and said, look, it wasn't a lightning storm. Those two craft didn't crash together. The second crash was brought down by an experimental weapon from Los Alamos. And then we have Colonel John Alexander, who yelled at me on the phone one day. It was a nice moment. Colonel John Alexander, who said Colonel French's story is complete bunko. We never had any kind of radar application, any kind of pulse weapon that could have brought down a craft. And then we have Stephen Greer, who was told that they switched on at Los Alamos right after the Trinity test, a new type of radar, and it was this radar that brought the craft down. But Doty said, no, it was a massive electrical storm that caused the interference. So all of these crazy, bizarre stories, I simply put into one book and left my opinion out of it, so people couldn't come back and say, he's skewing the argument. No, I didn't. I put the 6 accounts down, and now, which I couldn't get into the book in time because it went into publishing in November, we see on the Ronald Reagan 1980 briefing, where we saw the 27 also, by the way, that the briefer in that Ronald Reagan briefing about extraterrestrials talks about a third craft that was brought down in the area of Los Alamos, and that craft was brought to Berkeley, University of California, Berkeley, in the testimony of a warehouse person who saw the truck, maybe it was the Lyndon Bolton Howe craft, saw the truck being brought into the warehouse at the University of California, Berkeley. I mean, as my wife says, take a ticket on the crazy trains. That's what this book is when you go through all the stories.
I know, and I love the stories of crashes because it supposes two things, right? Well, it doesn't suppose. Let me go right before the question, which is there are so many stories of crashes, right? So many. They all
Right.
can't be bunk. They're all the people involved in those stories, and there's often a number per crash story. They all can't be liars. So there's clearly something to it. And assuming that those crashes were real, that means there were pilots in there somehow, and that is what your this alien interview is, isn't it? It's leading to that. An alien's getting here from somewhere, be that interdimensional or another planet. We find the crashes. There's going to be a being. It's just one links
Correct.
the second one together, and I love the crash
Right.
stories. The second thing I want to mention, I've heard the radar thing before about the radar bringing them down. Now, again, whether it's radar, whether it is electrical thing, that's almost irrelevant in a way. We've got the crash and we've got evidence of crashes. I mean, I spoke to Stan Gordon last week, and we were talking about the Kecksburg. That's another famous crash incident. These things
Well,
are out there. They're prevalent.
you're a great interviewer and you are a great researcher. And I'm not saying that to blow sunshine up your dress, because you just said something, and it's one of my biggest caveats of my investigation. Like, is it General Powell or is it somebody else? We can't afford, we, the community, cannot afford to battle and fight each other on minute details
Anusha, yeah.
in comparison to the overall picture. What do we have in front of us? Where did it come from? What does it know? Why are we hiding it? And thank you for what brought the crashes down. Even Rick Doty said that to me. What does it matter? The
Mm.
big craft from another planet, another dimension crashed on Earth, and we recovered them. That's the story. How they crashed, you know, that's
It's a
that's
side
that's
story. It's a
that's
side. Yeah.
secondary. Yeah, that's not germane to the overall galactic picture of what's going on with our planet.
I
Thank you
completely
for
agree.
saying that.
That's all right. What other UFO cases have you investigated? Because I saw on your website that you said you've been a UFO investigator for a while now. What have you else
Sure.
looked into?
Yeah, totally dived into to the Roswell. I've researched meaning watched documentaries, read documentation about the 1893 um, almost like dirigible blimp UFO crash
The
in
one that hit the
Texas. It knocked down the
windmill.
water tower,
Yeah, that's
the
it.
windmill. Yeah, very interesting how the body disappeared on that Roswell. I am planning on going to the area of the alleged crash in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, sometime this summer or early this summer. My nephew, one of my de facto sons, my best friend who died, his son is graduating from University of Mississippi, just outside of Memphis, which is kind of in the Missouri area. So we're going to go there to Cape Girardeau and see that site. Of course, I've been told that my alien is from the Kalahari crash, so I have been adept at researching that, but I am not making that claim. I still have no idea where my alien has come from. Um, what else have I'm very, very interested in the abduction and pregnancy, regardless of the veracity of the story of the woman in Bronx with the two detectives, and she claims she was taken and impregnated and lost the child, and I think her name was Linda Esposito. Very interested in that case for a multitude of reasons. And there's been a lot of cases where our family summer home is in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, which is there's two Michigan states basically. One's on the right side of Lake Michigan, and where our family summer home is above northern Wisconsin. And there's been a lot of UFO um, incidents up there and reports with MUFON that I've read about. And I had my own experience after I went to Red Rock State Park outside of Las Vegas and saw the petroglyphs, and everyone was laughing at them in the tour group. I was the only one taking it seriously. The tour guide let me go up, put my hand on it. on one of the petroglyphs. I'm not being weird here. I'm just telling you the story. And I said, I'm whoever drew these. I'm sorry for the disrespect that you are being shown by these visitors. And I'm in the back seat of the car. My wife and her sister are gabbing a mile a minute, and I look to my right, and I see a spherical chrome, um, a sphere chrome just sitting about 5,000 feet in the air, right above Blue Diamond, Arizona, Nevada, which is a UFO hotspot, and it snapped off. It didn't dissolve. It snapped off like somebody turned a light switch on, and I was pretty like I pretty like moved by it. Like I actually saw something that can't be explained. I made a MUFON report. It's another thing. 99.9% of the things I talk about, I can back up with email, police reports, FBI,
Mm.
documentation, other witnesses, other third parties. So I'm very proud of that. I just don't speak off the top of my head. Somebody ever wanted to email me, or you'll see in the documentary, we have the lineage that proves this out. And again, my first UFO sighting, I made a MUFON report.
That's amazing, and well done for you for reporting it. And I don't saying that in a blasé sort of way, but the majority of people don't report it, and it's
No,
good
they
that we
don't.
have that
No, they
down.
don't.
So well played to
Yeah.
you. Um,
Yeah. Thank you.
I have a question for you now on a personal level, which is right.
Sure.
You were a professional wrestler, and you
Yes.
did your car business part. To me, when you're talking about this stuff, you're amped up on it. Are you in the right place in your life now, doing this work rather than when you were a wrestler? Do you feel at home
Absolutely. Oh my God, great question. Yeah, I have the time now. I have the mental energy now. Um, as a pro wrestler, you're on the road all the time. And when I was wrestling, the majority of my wrestling career that was full time, I was also in college at university. You, I mean, I had Sergeant Slaughter quizzing me in a managerial psychology class, a test that I was going to take on Monday. This is not a joke. I had Sergeant Slaughter in the locker room. Okay, the next question. So I was very busy and consumed, and I was in the automobile industry. I wasn't in a coal mine, but I worked 9 to 12 hours a day for 25 years because it's a time consuming industry. So now that I'm semi-retired, it is and again, I have the time. Why? When did I first start the pedal to the metal to this investigation? Think about it. The start of COVID, when for the first time in my life, I had time off that wasn't due to an injury or a pure
now?
vacation. So the trail of my truthfulness bears out. How I started this was when I first in my life, and I don't say that, I'm embarrassed to admit that I had time off and I was able to start researching. So yes, this is the perfect time in my life. My wife and I, our marriage is in a great place. I'm not saying it never was, but when your husband is on the road as a wrestler and coming back into Chicago, and he's working 14, 12 hours a day as a car dealer, and he's running for governor and Congress. And where does my wife and family fit into that? Even though I did make time for them, but our marriage was strained because of other commitments that I had. And now, we have time together. She's my best friend. I tell everyone, if you ever want to compliment me on my investigation, wherever it goes, put my wife on the back, because she was right there every step of the way, never interfering, never being negative, always being supportive. And it was the perfect time. And I say, God, I was guided. This was divinely guided by my creator, because it was the right time, the right place, and the right moment. And the amount of people that came out to help me, um, I tell everyone I never could have done this if it wasn't for the internet and it wasn't for kind hearted people. I mean this. I mean
Hmm.
this, for kind hearted heroes in the military and in the intelligence community who risked pension, career, embarrassment to help a semi-retired grandfather in Chicago. So this isn't me. This is a conglomeration of people that hopefully is going to prove one of the greatest secrets in mankind, that it's true.
Well, I look forward to seeing where that ultimately leads, because it would be amazing if you can prove it's true, and that would be
Right.
super, super lush, because I want nothing more to see in my lifetime, probably like you, because I ain't far off your age, the
Right.
answers to the alien question that we all have.
Right.
Have you seen the jellyfish UFO video?
I have.
And what do you reckon
Yes.
on that?
It looks like a transformer from
It
when my
does,
son
doesn't
was 9 years old.
it?
I'm not
Yes.
I'm not cutting down Jeremy Corbell. I don't
Mm.
know him, never met him. I'm not one of those people. I think a lot of people dislike him because he's getting all the attention, and that infuriates some people in the UFO community. That's not my problem.
It shouldn't know. That's
I
about
don't
the
care what he did.
ego, isn't it?
That's ego, of course.
Yeah,
And I
right.
and I tell everybody, with some UFO people that are so cruel, have been so cruel to me and so denigrating and so dismissive and disrespectful, you know, failing to see that I ran for governor and that I was a successful, honorable business person, married for 25 years. They don't care about that. They just think you're a piece of crap because you're doing something they aren't. That's childhood trauma that's coming
Yep.
to
Yep. Yep.
surface. I can't fix childhood trauma, and I'm not going to. And I see Jeremy putting up with that. And so and I'm not defending Jeremy. He's made a lot of mistakes. Even with the Bob Lazar documentary, where he should have told the whole bio of Bob, his troubles with the law. That is important in the overall correct narrative of Bob Lazar. That's just my opinion.
Mhm.
And how in the hell Jeremy can get top secret video and not be prosecuted is a question that I think he should answer. I don't know how this is happening, other to speculate that somebody from the military is keeping people at bay and allowing this to happen.
It's a
And as
control.
far as the
Yeah.
jelly, yeah, sir, as far as the jellyfish, it looks like a transformer. I have seen the face close up. It now there's a report that military people saw this go into the water and pop up back out of the water. I'm just saying that's what is now circulating. So that would be interesting, because the fact that it stays floating in one position and does not go up or down does look like a floating balloon. I'm not saying
Yeah.
it is.
I agree with you. It has that appearance, but
Yeah,
all the technology following it and not seeing it in the normal light and stuff, i.e.
right,
people can't see
right,
it, it lends credence to
right,
there's something there. And they wouldn't
correct,
put it out if there wasn't something to it. No smoke without fire and all that.
right.
Right, we're not far off entering the Koit zone, but a question I ask everyone before we enter the Koit zone, which is, what strange things have happened to you? Now, you've already mentioned your Chrome UFO sighting. What else weird has happened in your life? That could be a weird conversation with somebody. It could be anything. Just one story.
No, no, I can't tell one story. Let me. I'm not yelling at you. I'm just saying. When I first started this, the very first person that I ever spoke to about this about starting this journey was a documentarian called Chad Kalick. And he said, John, I've been investigating paranormal for 20 years. I've never had any weirdness in my life. I'm telling you, I'm warning you. You sound like a nice guy. The first week I investigated gray aliens, my life electronically went haywire. And I have had my alarm on my iPhone go off at midnight with this creepy, bizarre alarm song, so to speak. Now, to set an alarm, that's like 4 movements on your iPhone to get that to go off. The first time I showed my family the actual 3-minute Victor film, I brought them into our TV room. We were gathering around the computer. As my youngest daughter walked in, she got a Snapchat from a person that was not on her Snapchat friend list. And as she walked down the stairs, the Snapchat said, "Do you believe in aliens?" Okay. I've
Hmm.
had my phone, uh, I've been texted, "Your life is in danger." And I think the most bizarre, other than being hollered at by this agent from the NAISC, it was a Pentagon text message that he was ordered to send to me. That was one of the most bizarre moments. But the most bizarre moment I have ever had when this mild mannered intelligence community person was talking to me. I've been speaking with him for better part of 2.5 years. And when I mentioned the government's ability to look into the future and possibly, as that called, Project Looking Glass, this intelligence community member went completely demonic and off and unhinged. and scared the crap out of me, yelled at me, and it's not John Alexander. But this mild mannered person went completely unglued and yelled at me, "Don't you ever ask about that? Don't you ever talk about it? I don't ever want to see you on a podcast talking about uh, 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 the government's ability to look into the future. You don't you forever. I swear to God, you have no idea what's going to come down on if you would talk about that and investigate it." And
Mm,
that was creepy. That was
it does
creepy. And
sound
I'm telling
creepy.
people, if you want to investigate the alien phenomenon, first of all, I've been told by multiple people, they listen to every single podcast that deals with this phenomenon. Underlings and people just at a three-letter agency just starting out. This is the job they're given. Everything is listened to.
I don't doubt it,
And yeah, put that in stone. I don't ever say I know to a fact. I'm telling you, I pretty much know for a fact every podcast that deals with this is at least is perused over and notes are taken. So if you ever want to get into this, you better be prepared. You better get a secure phone. You better get a VPN service. You better prepare your relatives, your significant other, your children, your friends, you name it, because if you touch on something, I call a third rail, and they start investigating you, you better put on a seatbelt because it's gonna get. They have all my emails to the guy in England that researched this video too. Th- that was specifically told to me. That was the first thing that set me off on the radar of the Pentagon, was sending emails to England. So, and that was in 2019, so, or 18 or something like that. So, yeah, you touch a third wire, they're coming. Remember, I don't speak ill of the government, and I never will. But they have unlimited time and unlimited money.
Exactly, and it's your money that you paid with your tax money that's going to
Correct.
hit yourself, which makes it even worse. John, we are now entering the Koit zone. Koit zone. Now, in the Koit
Do
zone,
I have to prepare for this or
you
something?
you don't. There won't be a test at the
I'm
end or
kidding.
anything.
I'm kidding.
They are just random, inane, stupid questions that I will ask
Oh, I
you.
love it. I love that.
So aside
Okay,
from the seriousness of the stuff we've gone through. So, first
great.
thing, flavors: sweet or savory?
Oh, sweet. I have a huge sweet tooth.
Good man. This is not in the Koit zone, but I feel I have to ask this question right now. What was your wrestling name, by the way?
I started off as the Beach Boy for Jerry Lawler, and then I became um, a spoiled, like less than zero Hollywood, Hollywood Brat Pack type person, and my name was the illustrious Johnny Stewart. And my biggest stint was on AWA on ESPN, and a lot of the matches are still on YouTube. Just type in AWA Johnny Stewart, and you'll see me. And my gimmick was like a Ric Flair gimmick with the robe and the sequins and the blonde hair, and it was a hoot.
Excellent. I'm not massively into wrestling, but I will look it up. I swear to God, I'll do that for
Okay.
you. Favorite movie?
Oh, Remains of the Day.
Remains of the Day. I know the name, but I can't
I
remember
know,
the film.
I know. Anthony Hopkins, Emma Thompson, where they're in 1936 England, and it's the start of World War II, and Hitler is, and Hitler is getting involved, and Anthony Hopkins plays a butler, and he's relentlessly dedicated to his job as a butler, and forgoes being humiliated, forgoes the global crisis that's going about him, and actually forgoes falling in love and being with the person that he loves, Emma Thompson. So I love it. I love all things London, all things England. So does my sister. We absolutely believe that in another life, my
You
sister and
came,
I
yeah.
were raised in England. I'm not saying that to curry favor with your audience. The one time I went to England, you have the nicest people on the globe who live in England. I love your country, and that movie, I can watch it on a loop constantly. I
Oh, good
also
to you.
like my second movie after that is Slapshot with Paul Newman, the hockey movie,
Oh yeah,
for
yeah.
whatever
I
reason.
know both movies, but I haven't seen them for a long, long time. I have seen both
Yeah.
of them, but a long, long, long time ago. Um, Here's an interesting one. What scares you?
Um, Heights, being buried alive. Yeah.
Yeah, or I combine the
And my
two. Yeah,
and that's as a human, as a father, any harm to my children
yeah, that
terrifies
makes
me.
sense.
Yeah.
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 When's the last time you were sick?
I got COVID, but I wasn't sick. Um, my doctor and my best friend, Tom, laugh at me. They say I have caveman DNA. The last time I was literally bedridden with the flu was in eighth grade. I just don't get sick. Now, I've had salmonella poisoning from eating, you know, bacteria laden food twice, but to have the flu or to be, bedridden, I haven't been bedridden since the eighth grade, as crazy as that sounds. I just
That
don't
is a
get sick.
you are a healthy individual then, clearly.
Well,
Fair
yeah,
play. Well, you
try
obviously
to
look
be.
after yourself, that which is a good thing. Favorite ever drink,
Oh, Arnold Palmer, which is a half lemonade, half ice unsweet tea.
and if you
My
only
favorite.
had to drink that one drink forever, would that still stand?
Yes, yes. But like, when I have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or cookies, it's ice cold milk. But if I had to drink one drink forever, Arnold Palmer, because it's just a little, lemonade's too sweet, unsweet tea is too bland, so it's a perfect mix. I adore that drink.
Cool, cool. You've just won free tickets, right, to anywhere in the world. Where are you going?
Oh wow,
It's going to be
great,
London, isn't
great.
it?
Well, because I'm married and my wife, I would definitely want, I definitely, and we are going, but it would be to Italy. Yeah, yeah.
Whereabouts?
We want to go to the Amalfi Coast first,
Ah, yeah.
then go to Rome. Want to go to Florence. My relatives came from the Vincenza region, which is northern Italy. Northern Italy. My grandmother, whose last maiden name was Donini, and my ancestor was a semi-famous painter under Calcavedia and Calcavaggia, and he painted altar paintings for the Vatican. And I'm not bragging; I'm just saying it's a
Sure,
cool
sure.
story. And she was born, and so was he, just in the northern suburbs of Rome. So I would like to go see that area too.
Off to Italy for you then. I don't
My
know where we're
favorite
getting
place.
these free tickets from, but
I,
someone's going to do.
Yep. I've been around the world, and I can tell you, to this, I've never been to Italy yet, but London, it's not even close. It's my all-time favorite place. It's the nicest. I mean, the kindness I was showed by individuals at every moment I was there. And if anybody knows this area, I want to tell a quick story.
Mhm.
And people that will know this will know exactly what I'm talking about. I went from Tweaksbury to Morton on Marsh, right? Am
Oh,
I
you're
saying that
not far away from
correctly?
my house, Tewkesbury.
And I went
Yeah.
and I took the alley. This is what I was told by the hotel staff. It's this Roman road. They call it the alley, and it's narrow and it's between farm fields and there's trees down and animals and so and it's not the road you should take from going to Tweaksbury to Morton on Mars, Morton on Marsh. And so I'm proud that I survived the alley. And people that I've talked to who know that area, oh my God. Somebody said, well, you know what the alley, what most people in the area use it for, it's for making babies. And
Yeah.
it's like a lover's lane. So I thought that was
Yeah.
funny.
I
But I
wouldn't know if
love
I've
England.
been
I
down that
just can't say
lane.
enough about, yeah, I cannot say enough about people from England. I cannot wait to go back.
Tewkesbury is about 9 miles from my house, so it's not far.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's close.
Yeah, I was in the field where the Battle of Tweaksbury was, and in these hedgerows, and I'm like, "Are you crazy? I was all by myself. I was going up to the canal where the longboats
Mhm.
are and stuff, and but this thicket, I'm like, what if there's strangers or thugs or hooligans that want to, and so I was proud of myself that I kept going, and it was really cool to see that battlefield because I have researched the War of the Roses and
Mhm.
very interesting. So, anyways, I'll stop talking about
The
England.
type of thugs that you would see around there would be like small, thin druggies. I'm sure you could destroy them
Well, that's
easily.
that's what my wife said. She goes, "What if you came across somebody doing heroin or because folks, the thicket bushes of England, it's you could hide
They're
a family of
everywhere.
10.
Yeah.
They're everywhere. So, yeah.
Right. Favorite candy. You got a sweet tooth, so what's your favorite candy?
Oh my God, favorite candy is Reese's peanut butter cups, followed by Snickers.
Snickers is a good choice. I don't mind peanut butter cups. I prefer the Reese's
Yeah,
Pieces, the small ones, but
my
fair play.
wife loves Reese's Pieces. Yeah.
What's the last thing you threw?
The last thing I threw,
Yeah.
a snowball that I made into an ice ball at an automobile auction last Thursday, and I hurt my shoulder. And
Lovely.
everyone laughed at me because I grabbed my shoulder and said, "What did I do that for?"
That's
Isn't
life.
that amazing that you asked me that and I have a story? But yeah,
Yeah,
last
yeah, yeah.
Thursday, an ice ball, and I threw it inside a auction warehouse as the auto auction was going on, and hurt my shoulder. And yeah, so that's the
Well,
last thing I threw. That's a great
did
question.
did the snowball hit anybody?
No, it just went down,
Ah,
and I looked like an idiot throwing it because my shoulder is terrible from weightlifting and wrestling, and I made all the car dealers laugh, and it was kind of embarrassing.
right, horrible one then, because you've had a big history with cars. Have you ever had a car accident?
Oh yeah, I almost died. I was hit by a daughter of the man who was the German consulate in Chicago in 1993. Was intoxicated, and she fell asleep at the wheel. She hit the back end of my car. I hit a wall at like 60 miles an hour. I bounced
Crikey.
back into the traffic, and a semi truck hit the other rear end. I spun around and survived. And yeah, but I've had multiple accidents in my earlier days, and
Wow.
not fun, not fun.
No
But I
near death
almost died.
experiences or anything, or time slowing down as
Well,
part of that?
my mother was 9 months pregnant with me. I tell the story. I am a survivor. She fell down the church steps when she was 9 months. My dad said that's how Jon Stewart was created mentally. Um, they thought I had cancer, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, my freshman year at Memphis State, and I mean not just like a story to dramatic story, but like, can you come back? We have to do more tests and X-rays and blood tests, and then came back for another visit, and so that was scary. The drunk driving accident in 1993, and I've had multiple people die in front of me in accidents. I drive a lot. We had a car dealership that I now lease out the property. That's how I'm semi-retired. But we've had multiple suicides right at the train tracks by our car dealership. I tried to rescue two people that died in car accidents on the highway unsuccessfully. I had a woman almost choked to death in front of me, and I actually did the Heimlich, and she popped out a Polish candy, whatever it was. So I've been around death enough to know that you should respect police officers, firemen,
Oh, of
paramedics,
course.
the military, because seeing death is not fun.
No, hell no. I don't think I've personally seen it, and I don't kind of want to. But hey ho.
Yeah, I hope you don't.
No, I
Not a
don't
good
want
thing.
to. Can you sing or play an instrument?
I can't sing. I can play the drums. I can play the drums barely.
Oh,
But
okay.
I wish I knew how to play the piano. My sister is a good piano player, and I am not.
Well, there's plenty more time in your life, and you've got free time,
Yeah,
haven't you? So you could do
that's
it. You
right.
never know.
That's
Last
right.
question in the Coit zone. What's the grossest thing you've ever smelled?
The grossest thing I ever smelled. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Well, I've been in wrestling locker rooms
I knew you were
for
going to say that.
25 years. I mean, the grossest thing I've ever smelled probably came um it was a rotting possum. You know what a possum is?
Hmm.
It's the creature that fakes that it's dead. It was killed on the side of the road. We put it in a big Tupperware rubber container to use it for bait in hunting, and I forgot about it for 3 months. And we opened up that container. That's never left me. That's the worst thing I've ever smelled.
Takes years to get out of your clothes. You do realize that that possum was still faking its death. He was just using.
Probably, yeah. I should have hit it with a stick and see if it was
That's
still
it.
alive. Yeah,
Die, you
that's
bugger.
funny, right?
Um, that is the end of the Coit zone. So thank you. That
Right?
remains. There's just
You're
two
welcome.
questions left. First
Sure.
one. What else do you like to do in your downtime? Any activities, stroke guilty pleasures?
Yeah, I love watching documentaries. I have attention deficit disorder, so I was a terrible student, but I learned by visualizing and seeing things visually. So now it's like I'm getting my PhD in certain subjects in history. That's me, my personal PhD. So I love watching documentaries. I love laying out in the sun. I'm a big sun worshiper. I'm a Pisces. My horoscope is Pisces, so I love the water. My favorite thing to do would be in the Caribbean, in the water with the sun coming down, or the sun beating down on me in the water. I love that. I like to play golf, although my knees and my back and my shoulders don't allow me to be as good as I would like to be. And I love spending time with my wife. As strange as that might sound to some
That's
men,
not
my
strange.
wife
No,
literally has been my best friend for 25 years. We
it's
hang
nice.
out together. We go on little adventures, and I truly love her company. And we have a blast just doing. This weekend we went to Milwaukee and hung around and went to different places and had dinner. And so I love going out to dinner. And I don't like socializing that much, which made me a terrible politician. I don't like small talk. So my wife and I don't go to cocktail parties a lot, and because we're just not into that. But I do like, family time also. And number one thing is being by the water at our summer home. We were on a lake with the sun coming down, trying to fish, hanging out with my family. It's, very blessed to have that experience.
That is amazing. You sound very similar in your outlook on life to me because I'm all those
Oh,
things as well. So that's cool.
cool. Well,
Final
you're a good
question
man
then.
then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. We have to be, don't we? Upcoming projects. Is there anything you're working on at the moment besides the documentary?
Yes, I was asked to write a 9 episode um, linear docu-series about things that people have never heard of to some degree in the world of ufology.
Oh, awesome.
And I was asked to do that by somebody, a producer that saw my book about Magdalena, who said, "We've never heard of this. Do you have any more stories that, you know?" And I'm not saying, excuse me, I'm not saying that I that none of the things I wrote about have never been talked about, but they're not mainstream, like the Ronald Reagan briefing papers, like um, uh, uh, what is the true provenance of Majestic 12? Those people. There's a crazy story that was emailed to me about a Lockheed crash where Lockheed and special forces of the government descended on the craft together. That's not publicly ever been talked about on TV. So, so some, and the Magdalena crash, of course, the second Roswell crash, which has only really been covered one time on TV. So that's what I'm currently working on now, and still um, don't want to say investigating because I don't want to trip off alarm bells, but still um, curious more than I was a month ago about Lockheed and did they have a recovery team and whatnot. So I've been kept cursorily researching that also.
Excellent.
That's what I'm working on.
Perfecto. John, thanks ever so much for your time. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. A lot to learn there, and I look forward to receiving obviously the video of the alien,
Yes.
and I'll whack that during
Yes.
this conversation. So thanks ever so much, and thank you to all of you watching. Goodbye. To watch other KoitCast episodes, please click the image top left. To subscribe to my channel, please click the image top right. Please like and share to help KoitCast grow, and most importantly of all, please click the notification bell so you never miss an upload.